ここに来ちゃったな。
もう用はない。行くぞ。
Hi everybody, Molly from EGM here, and I have come to you today to talk about Bethesda and Tango Gameworks' upcoming, what would you call it, a first-person action-adventure, not horror, but maybe a little bit spooky, not a shooter, but kind of a shooter game, Ghostwire Tokyo. This is, of course, coming on the heels of The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2, but this is a very different take for Tango, and I have had the chance to play it for a while now. The footage you're going to be seeing today is from around the first 5 hours or so of the game, so nothing too spoilery. The beginning of the game was a little bit spoilery, so we can't show it to you, but this part is going to be more just kind of general gameplay as I talk to you and babble about what I've been thinking of it. Before we get anywhere, I do want to say that what you are seeing, I'm running in performance mode, which is meant to give a better frame rate. The options you have are kind of better visuals, better frame rate, and then there's kind of a high frame rate option for both of those that I've not played around with too much. But so before I get into like the gameplay side of all this, I want to talk about the atmosphere, which I find to be very interesting. So the game takes place, I guess I should really explain a little bit more about what's going on in this. So the game takes place in Shibuya, which is a district of city of Tokyo in Japan, and something has happened so that this fog has rolled in, and almost everybody who was there has disappeared. And as you walk around the city, you'll literally see like their clothing just laying on the ground, their packages, purses, book bags, things like that. So everybody has disappeared, but your name is Akito, and you've kind of got a dual purpose now, beyond just figuring out what's happened. You're trying to find your sister who has been kidnapped, and you're also trying to help a mysterious person named KK who has invaded your body. And the background to how he did that is a little bit mysterious and a little bit spoilery, but that's one of the things you're trying to find out. So you're going around Shibuya, and everybody's gone. There are these creatures called the Visitors. You've probably seen if you've watched any footage for this game. They're like businessmen with umbrellas or Japanese schoolgirls with no heads and things like that. So those kind of creatures are around. And then traditional Japanese yokai are around as well. But beyond that, there's nobody. And it presents a really interesting atmosphere for the game. Especially as somebody who's been to Japan. I've been to Shibuya. I've actually stayed in Shibuya previously when going to Tokyo Game Show. I spent a few days there at a hotel. And if you go to Shibuya, it's never, ever empty like it is in this game. And so it or a lot of places in Japan, really. You know, so it's kind of like if you watch a movie or something like The Division, where you go to New York and New York is just, well, I guess The Division really isn't deserted, but you know, those kind of things where you've got this major city that you've never seen deserted like this. So it is a really interesting atmosphere for the game. And so as you see right now, as I'm playing, you see I'm attacking the visitors. But it just creates a really engrossing kind of place to set this game, and it's not like anything groundbreaking, but it does give the game an atmosphere that has kept me interested in it, you know, in the time that I'm playing it. Okay, so as you see here, I'm fighting these visitor things, and the idea is that, at least at the point that I'm at, I have 3 types of elemental attacks. There's wind, which is more of a kind of a single enemy focused attack. I just use the water there, which water is a much more close range, but it's a multi enemy hit. And then the fire is kind of area effect stuff. And I don't think I'm going to show off in this video, but there's also a bow that I've gotten. I'm still trying to figure out like when to use the bow, because The elemental attacks, they all kind of have, it's not ammo obviously, but it is ammo. You can see in the back down corner there, I've got what, like 18. Magic's got 22 for the wind attack, and like 5 or so for fire, and 11 for water. So like everything has ammo, but the bow ammo you actually buy. I mean, you can find it around, but you do buy it, and so I'm still trying to figure out like what I use the bow for. But the basics, as you're kind of seeing here, like what you saw, there's kind of a few different things you're going for in the game at the point that I'm at. You're trying to clear the fog out, and the way you clear the fog out is you find these shrines or the Torii gates, and you purify them, and once you've purified them, whatever area that shrine or that gate kind of controlled, that area, the fog goes away. And once you clear the fog, you do exploring, you find these things. These are the souls of the people who got disappeared, and so you're collecting them in these paper talismans. You would have seen it earlier, you take the talismans to a phone, you put the talisman in the phone, and then through some mysterious process that I don't understand yet, at the point that I'm at, you can send the souls to where they should be versus being stuck here through the payphone. That's why we should never have gotten rid of payphones, see? Our souls can't move on now. And then, of course, you're fighting visitors. And there are pseudo-ish boss fights that I've found so far. Like, I have found one main storyline boss fight in the 5 hours I've been playing, and then a few smaller boss fights, sub-bosses for side quest kind of stuff. So the game is open world. Here you'll see here now. I think I'm going to send the souls off. The game is open world, at least as far as I know. Maybe it's going to change. You know, I think back to like the Evil Within 2, and that kind of went back and forth between being open world and linear, open world, linear. So, in what I'm playing now, I'm kind of going around Shibuya, unlocking different sections of Shibuya and the area. But because you're unlocking everything in these very specific pieces, like, the game that you start in is very small, and then grows from there. So it's not like you're just being thrown into Tokyo and then going anywhere. There is kind of a focus on where you're going to be going next. So as you're going to see right here, by the way, stopping my big conversation about where we're going, you can pet the dogs. You can feed the dogs, and I'm going to feed the dog right now. You can see the little thing I just did is it's kind of KK's ability. It's you know, the, what do you call it, detective vision, or the survival sights, or, you know, you do it and then you can see the surrounding area and like if there's enemies or items and stuff. So you can also use that to speak to, so far, cats and dogs. And if you give the dogs food, they will find you some money. You can pet the dogs, and you can also, much more importantly, you can pet the cats. Some of them, not all of them, but you can talk to the cats too. And so right now you're getting a kind of look at the map to kind of see the parts of the Shibuya area that I've unlocked so far. So there is focus, obviously, in this game. They're not just leaving you hanging and not knowing where to go next, but there is also, funny enough, having just come off of playing Elden Ring, you know, one of the things I loved about that game was that it kind of lets you take the game on your own pace, and if you didn't ever want to do any specific thing at any specific time, there was always plenty to do otherwise. And I'm not saying Ghostwire Tokyo is that same thing, but I do get a little bit of a feeling of not being relaxed, but not necessarily having the rush to go anywhere and do anything. Like, I've had fun so far just taking time to explore and looking around the city and seeing what I find. And, you know, there's enemies to go fight, or if you want to find more souls, because there's, like 240,000 souls you have to collect. So I do appreciate the fact that you can just kind of play at a little more of a relaxed pace, and I'm not feeling in any specific moment pressured to be doing anything. And I have been enjoying that. If you want to, though, you can just focus on the main missions. Like you can see in the upper left, it's telling you what my next main mission is. I gotta go to the Shibuya Underground, and which you will see in a few minutes. But I do like just, and it kind of goes to the atmosphere that I was speaking to earlier. Is just you're in Tokyo, you're in Shibuya, but there's just nobody there. It's quiet, it's weird, and you have that chance just to kind of soak in the atmosphere, which I like. So here coming up will be the most important part of this video, which is where I do find the cats. Just kind of traveling a back alley here. I'm just riffing a little bit because we're going to be getting the underground, and I want to talk about combat once we get there. But we're not quite there. There's an item that you can get to find money. There's items all around, and you'll also see you'll have seen the weird. I'm punching a lot of stuff, and there will be vending machines or bikes or even cars and things that are weird, multicolored, and they're in the wrong positions, and you can punch them, and that's how you get ammo back. And ammo can be a little bit tough at the part that I'm at. There are a variety of things you can do. You'll have seen where I'm pulling the cores out of enemies. I had initially thought that you had to destroy an enemy's core in order to kill that enemy, but you don't. It's that the thing is if you remove their core before fully killing them, and this, I like that scene right there because it's the visuals are to be fair, I'm sidetracking, but to be fair, I am playing on performance mode, so this is not the best this game looks. I think it's a very beautiful game visually and technically, but it's also technically not the most impressive game in the world. I'm not necessarily feeling the full next-gen-ness of it, but I do think that it's really, really satisfying and beautiful in its own ways. What was I saying? The ammo. So there are a few different ways that you can replenish your ammo. You can do... you will have seen much earlier, and I should have pointed it out, but I was too busy talking. There's a more perfectly timed block you can do that isn't necessarily a parry, but it does get you items if you do that kind of perfectly timed block. And then if you pull the cores out of the enemies, that will give you some life back and some ammo back. And then if you destroy the objects, you can get ammo back. But you can run out of ammo very quickly. And what this is kind of leading to is, if I've got any real complaint about Ghostwire Tokyo at this point, is that combat feels a little stiff. And, as you're kind of watching me shoot people here, you will see me at times missing. And I'm not saying I'm not missing just because I'm missing, but this is an unfair comparison, but as somebody who plays a lot of Apex Legends currently, I'm very used to that respawn style of gunplay, of aiming, of control, of all those kind of elements, the movement and things. And Ghostwire Tokyo is not a shooter. It's not trying to be a shooter. It's not supposed to be a shooter, so it doesn't need to have shooter controls and shooter aiming. But I do feel like there's just something there about the way it feels when you're aiming at enemies and trying to target them and you're shooting them, that just isn't where I wish it would be. And it's not bad in any way, but when I did previously a kind of a first look at this game on our website, EGMnow.com, and I brought up the game Mach X back on the Dreamcast, and that was a first-person action RPG game that was not a first-person shooter. And so when you played it, you sometimes wanted it to play like a first-person shooter, but it wasn't supposed to be that. And I feel very similarly about this game, about Ghostwire, is that it's not supposed to be a first-person shooter. It's not going to play like a first-person shooter, but I kind of wish in some ways it was a little more of a first-person shooter, just because even going in and there's options for like changing the acceleration for when your cursor movement accelerates and then decelerates. You can change the intensity isn't the right word, but you can change that, and then you can change the speed at which your x-axis and y-axis move. So there are a number of options, but even after tweaking those multiple times, I still don't feel like it's where I want it to be. And I can't exactly put my finger on what it is about the aiming that I'm not liking as much as I wish I was. But there's just something there where it's like, man, I just wish, I wish this played a little more like, I hate to say it, I wish this played a little more like an Apex Legends or like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or something, where just the aiming was, or Doom, just a little bit different. But I know it's not supposed to be a shooter, but it sometimes is, and in those moments, it's a little rough. Just in terms of feeling like I'm not doing as good as I think I should be doing in terms of attacking enemies. And one of my thoughts was, do you maybe put a Elden Ring-esque lock-on system into the game? Maybe no, maybe I kind of would love a lock-on, but I don't know if that's the right solution. I don't know. It's fun though. It's still fun, even getting past my frustration at times of, and because the frustration really is the fact that at least at this point in the game, you don't have a lot of ammo. And if you don't have a lot of ammo and, you lose 2 or 3 shots to just the way the enemy's moving and the way that you're moving your cursor, and they just don't align properly. Like, in this game, 2 to 3 missed shots can be a big deal. And then if you're, you can charge your attacks to get more powerful. So like, for example, the fire, if you select that and then you charge it and shoot it out, you'll have seen it. It's kind of like a big area of effect burst. If you miss on something like that's especially for the fire that has the least amount of ammo at this point, like, that could be a big deal. So I'm really liking Ghostwire Tokyo so far. As a game, as an idea, as an experience, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I cannot wait to play more of it, and, hopefully go on to review it sometime soon before the game launches. But there's that one sticking point, and it's the sticking point that comes with games like this. Is, again, it's not a shooter, but you kind of want to be more of a shooter, and so it's in that weird position where it's being what it should be and needs to be, but you also kind of want it to be something it's not. But the thing is I would much rather play a game like this that's trying something different and maybe doesn't get it all right, versus a game that is not trying anything different and not being daring in any of its ways and is perfect all the way through. So, as we near the end of my video here, like I said, I am enjoying my time with Ghostwire Tokyo. I have gone from mild curiosity but not huge interest when the game was first being shown off to legitimately being interested and wanting to see more and wanting to see it through to the end, which is a good thing. So Ghostwire Tokyo is coming out, I should have this on hand, March 22nd on PlayStation 5 and PC. And like I said, we'll hopefully have a review up on egmnow.com in the coming days. I can't tell you what day, but soon, hopefully.